Mort, and this is Kitchen Table Productions, a show all about living well with low carb. Well, as any person who's done low carb for a while knows, sausage is one of those things that sounds great on paper. Meat, fat, spices, all mixed together and cooked up should be really perfect for low carb, right? Unfortunately, when you start looking at packages and reading the pre-made sausages that are available in the market, you find out they're filled with corn syrup and flour and soy and corn and just all sorts of things that a low carb really doesn't want. Well, there is a perfect solution around it. Make it yourself. It's really not that hard, although I will show you two ways to do it today. One is the harder version because it involves cutting up your own pork shoulder. But there is a simpler version that I'll show you after, and I'm going to make two great sausages today. I'm going to make a breakfast sausage and an Italian sausage. So we're going to do these two sausages. Should be lots of fun, and it's certainly very, very tasty. So let's get started.
Alright, now here we have the pork shoulder. This is how they usually come from the grocery store, all packed up in a cryovac just like this. And I usually like doing this method because getting your pork this way is a lot cheaper. It's usually about half the price. In addition, I also have a baking pan here with a baking sheet, baking pan cover on it. See? That'll help keep it from sticking to the pan when I put it in the freezer to help firm it up a bit. And I have a cutting mat, and under my cutting mat I have a wet paper towel. Now this is going to help keep it from sliding around. See, nice and stable. There we go. Alright, now the first thing we have to do is get under this tough outer skin. You can see here I've kind of started to flap. I've got a Kevlar glove to help keep me from cutting. I've got a pair of vice grips so that I can easily grab onto things, keep my hand out of the way. And I'm just going to remove this skin all the way around. It's really tough. And it wraps all the way around this pork shoulder. And the vice grips just really make the skin easy to grip, because otherwise it's very slippery. Make sure you keep the knife going away from you at all times. You don't want to hurt yourself. Alright, now we've gotten the skin off, and now we need to cut up this meat into little pieces as possible, just getting the meat out. And we have to be careful for connective tissue, like this here. See, this is hard and it's tough, and we really need to get rid of that. So we need to save the meat and get rid of this stuff. Now I find the easiest thing to do is to kind of find where the muscles naturally separate and just kind of follow it along just like this. See how that's kind of one muscle and there's another. Now see this kind of silvery looking stuff in here? That's silver skin. And we want to get that off because that will give us problems when we go to grind our meat. So we need to separate the muscle from the silver skin. So let me get the rest of this out of the way. Alright, now I'm cutting the meat here into small squares, about 1 inch or so, 1.5 inch. They need to be big enough, or small enough to go down the throat of my grinder. So 1 inch will do it. I've got a bowl here for the excess things, gristle, bits of silver skin. Not fat though, we want to keep as much of the fat as possible. So don't try to trim away your fat. Alright, now here's some of that silver skin I mentioned. You can kind of see it there, and I'm going to get my knife with a sharp point going right underneath that as close to the surface as I can, and then I'm just going to follow it across the face of the muscle, and then I can turn it around and go the other way. Alright, I've gotten all the muscle off, and this bone here is going to make me some good bone broth, so I'm going to keep this just for later. Put that over to the side. But for now I need to find out how much meat I have. So I've got my scale. I want to put on my mixing bowl here and tear it out. There you go, gotten to 0. Alright, now it seems here I have about 4 pounds of meat. That's pretty good. The reason I need to know this is I need to add a 1/3 of a pound of fat for every pound of meat. I'm using this. It's a cured salt pork belly. If you can find something in your area that's pasture raised or uncured, certainly go for it. But this is what I have available. So I need about 1 1/3 pounds altogether to go with my 4 pounds of meat. And now you have your tray of meat, and you're going to cube the fat up. Again, the same, about 1-inch cubes. And you're going to scatter your fat kind of evenly over the meat. Alright, now time to give this some flavor. I've got 5 pounds here total, and the amounts I'm going to give you is per pound. So everything I'm using I'm going to multiply by 5. Now I'm going to mix everything together first. I'm going to start with a teaspoon of salt, again per pound, half a teaspoon of dried parsley, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground sage, a 1/4 teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper. Yum yum. Always best to grind fresh if you can. A 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. A 1/4 teaspoon of coriander. And if you like your sausage hot, a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. You can go higher, you can go lower. I'm not making mine hot today. I might just leave that out. Alright, just getting this all well mixed together here. That's looking pretty good. And just sprinkle it now over the meat and fat. It doesn't really have to be pretty. You just want to get it all over there, kind of as evenly as you can. And next, this meat is headed to the freezer for about 30 minutes until it starts to stiffen up. And this is the fun part, the grinding. All you really have to do is push this meat down into the tube with the plunger. Handy dandy. You want it nice and cold so that the fat doesn't melt into the meat. And of course, never stick your fingers down there. That's just asking for finger pain. Now this is what it should look like when it's grinding. Individual strands of meat. If it looks more like this, one solid mass, you've got some silver skin wrapped around your knife blade in there. You need to stop and get it off. And here is my completed sausage. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for a couple hours, and then I'm going to portion it into 1 and 2 ounce patties.
Alright, now that was the hard way. I will admit, you have to cut up the meat, you have to grind it, and you probably, people out there going, well, I don't have a grinder, I can't do this. Yes, you can, because I do, as I said before, have the easy way. And I'll show you how to do that right now.
And here it is, pork already ground, just as you get it from the grocery store. Now it's not going to have as much fat as if you make it yourself, but it still makes a very good sausage. And right now we're going to get started on an Italian sausage. So we're going to start with a half a tablespoon of fennel, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of oregano, a teaspoon of basil, a clove of garlic, and a pinch of allspice. Your hands are the best tool for this. Just make sure they're very clean. You just get in there and you mix it all up until all those spices are mixed in evenly. And really, that's all there is to it. I'm just going to cook this up, and I think I'm going to add this to some spaghetti tonight for my guys. They will love it.
Well, there you have it. 2 great sausage recipes. Obviously, you can use either method with either sausage. Or you can just come in with your own spices, have fun, invent new things. That's the thing with sausage. There are an infinite variety of great flavors that you can come up with. Now, if you're just changing spices, it shouldn't change the nutritional content too much. According to MyFitnessPal, which is how I calculate this, a 1 ounce serving has 84 calories with 7 grams of fat, 4 grams of protein, and no grams of carbs. So yay, And that is, of course, using the hard method with that 3-to-1 protein to fat ratio. Now, as for the easy method, I'm not quite sure. You never quite know when you buy pre-ground meat exactly what that fat to protein ratio is. It probably isn't all that much different, maybe a little more protein and a little less fat. So that's it for that. If you want this recipe, you can find it and many others at my website, kitchentableproductions.net. I'm Jessica Verwort, and this has been Kitchen Table Productions.